people like me. You need people like me so you can point your fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
Welcome to the motherfucking relay. We're covering today's top boxing news. Ow!
Okay, we'll start with this. Estrada versus Valle. Let's talk about the fight ahead of it. I went with Estrada to win a decision, a points decision, a lopsided decision, and while the prediction stuck, she did win on points. The aesthetic of the match was not what I envisioned. In the first round,
I gave the first round to Valle.
Valle, who to my surprise was a bit more composed, not losing form, taking a more measured approach than I expected, pressing the issue and coming forward on Estrada, who for me was exhibiting a lot of nervous energy.
Too jumpy.
Too reactionary at the start, whereas Yokasta, she's landing punches, she's coming forward. I gave her the first round. I gave Senicia the second round. It looked like she settled in, calmed down.
Very good counters in the second round.
Managed the distance a bit better in the second round, and I gave Senicia the third round. She just edged it for me. The best punch of the round was a counter left hook from Estrada.
Cleaner work.
2-1 in favor of Estrada after 3. 2-2, tie score after 4, with Valle nicking the fourth round.
Some great exchanges.
Good action from both sides, and even effort in the fourth, but I felt like Yokasta just nicked the fourth round, so I gave that round to her. I gave the fifth round to Estrada, just barely.
Great combinations from both, but I felt Senicia just eked out that round, just nicked it.
3-2 after 5, 4-2 after 6. Had Estrada winning the 6th round. I had Valle winning the 7th round by maintaining form and backing off Estrada in what was a tight fight that even in those rounds that I gave Estrada, there was still an even effort from both fighters.
Yokasta was no worse for wear.
She was still in the fight, and at times she was taking shots, clean shots, but she was wearing them well. Gave Valle the 7th round. I gave Estrada the 8th round.
5-3 in favor of Estrada after 8.
6-3 in favor of Estrada after 9. The 9th round has to have been Estrada's most dominant round, making Yokasta miss and making Yokasta pay, even doing a bit of showboating.
Bull and Matador.
I had it 6-3 in favor of Estrada after 9 rounds, 6-4 after 10. I gave Valle the 10th and final round. Estrada looks like the pace caught up to her. She was losing form, and it was Valle coming forward, pressing the issue, throwing punches in bunches. I want to say that even though the prediction stuck, even though I went with Senicia to win a points decision, and she did, the aesthetic of the match was not as decisive as I anticipated.
No.
That it wasn't a landslide, it wasn't lopsided.
Where I thought it would be.
Veteran boxing scribe Steve Kim had it wider than I did. He had it 98-92 for Estrada, saying it could be closer, but I thought she clearly outboxed a strong and sturdy Valle. Ring Magazine's own Dougie Fisher echoed a similar sentiment, saying Superbad earned this moment. I think 97-93 is the right score. Estrada outclassed a very determined champion to become the undisputed queen.
Is that what she did? She outclassed Yokasta.
I think that all depends on who you ask, because Steve and Dougie had it a lot wider than I did. Former WBC light flyweight champion of Canada, Kim Clavel, said, very good fight. I had Estrada winning 97-93. Congratulations to both ladies. Same score that Dougie Fisher had, and yet there's still an unsettling feeling.
The aesthetic of the match, the booing afterwards after the judges' scorecards were read.
Some individuals feel that the right woman didn't win the fight, that yesterday's outcome, that decision, it was a robbery, and the decision should have gone to Yokasta.
My thoughts.
It wasn't what I expected. It wasn't the aesthetic I envisioned for the match. I did expect Senicia Estrada to be a lot more dominant. I expected her to land with more authority. To Yo Costa Valle's credit, she took the punches, and she took the punches well, landed some of her own.
Yo Costa did better than I expected.
She was stronger than I expected. You know, I expected that it would be Yo Costa Valle often making mistakes and losing form, where to me, it looked like Senicia was losing form. She was switching too much.
From orthodox back to southpaw, back to orthodox.
Yeah, normally she makes a seamless transition from one stance to the other, but she was doing it too much in the fight, too much within the round. The whole virtue of being a switch hitter is you can condition the opponent to expect punches from a certain stance so that when you switch, you can throw them off.
But when you do it so many times within the round, within the fight, it has almost no effect.
And in between the transition, if the opponent is still coming forward, they can catch you off balance. So there were times where Senicia was losing form, where she looked off balance.
Yo Costa was maintaining form.
The takeaway for me was that even though the prediction stuck and Senicia won on points, I came away feeling a bit more impressed with Yo Costa.
Perhaps it's because I underestimated her.
I went in expecting a lopsided contest, and that's not what it was. It was competitive, even in rounds that Senicia won.
It was competitive.
The only way that I can reconcile the booing afterwards as the judges' scorecards were read was maybe there were more fans of Yo Costa in there than I realized, or maybe it's because Yo Costa's a lot more gracious and not as boisterous as Senicia.
Yo Costa kept a professional reserve in the build-up, whereas for Senicia, she said it was personal.
So going in, a lot of people are expecting a lot from Senicia in what was an even fight.
She didn't dominate Yo Costa.
She won. She definitely won it for me, but she didn't dominate her.
Good fight.
Maybe there should be a second. Maybe they should run it back. We'll talk more about it in another video. For now, congratulations to the newly crowned undisputed minimum weight champion, Senicia Estrada. We then come to the main event of that same card, the WBO interim title fight between Oscar Valdez and Liam Wilson. Liam Wilson, who for me got off to a very good start, the noticeably taller, longer fighter of the two, strong as well, throwing straight punches from the outside coming in, backing up Oscar Valdez, backing him up off the jab and the straight.
In the first round.
Looking alive, looking taller, longer, and stronger than Oscar Valdez, who was struggling to get within striking distance of Liam Wilson, who was coming forward as Oscar was being backed off into the ropes. It wasn't looking good at first. Oscar got off to a very rocky start.
And you will remember that I said in the build-up,
Even though I picked Oscar to win the fight, I queried that Oscar's been in a lot of wars. He's been in some rough fights, taken a lot of shots.
Liam can hurt him.
Liam did. I think he did in the first round, and sensing that, that's why he started giving up his height and his length in the second. Oscar had a much better second round than the first one was, and what you started to see was Liam is hunkering down, trading punches mid-range to inside with the smaller man with Oscar Valdez, which isn't really what he was doing before. Before, he was working off the jab, stepping into it, and using straight punches to get inside.
He got away from his jab as the fight progressed, away from the straight punches, and elected to hook with the hooker.
I think what it was is because of all the success that he had in the first round, he sensed that he could hurt Oscar, so he decided to hit the gas, push the envelope, but in doing so, he gave up his height to the smaller man, which allowed him to grow into the fight. The counter hooks, the uppercuts on the inside from Oscar Valdez, they were damaging.
And Liam is hanging tough. He's getting off punches of his own, but Liam is taller and longer, so he needs more space to drive his punches.
You hear me say it all the time. In the phone booth, that proximity favors the smaller fighter with the shorter arms because they don't need as much room to work. They don't need as much space to drive their punches and put power on them. Whereas a taller, longer fighter,
They can't drive their punches as well within close quarters.
So if you notice, there was a lot on Liam Wilson's shots in the first round, but that power kind of waned. It's because he was shooting straight punches from the outside coming in, generating optimal power. But within close quarters, he was getting beat to the punch. He was getting countered. He was getting tagged. dragged, outworked by Oscar Valdez in what looked to be a battle of attrition.
That's what it was.
Oscar Valdez, growing into the fight because he was able to beat Liam Wilson to the punch within close quarters, started stringing punches together. Hooks, counter hooks, uppercuts up the middle.
Body shots.
Backing up Liam Wilson at times when there were breaks in the action and they weren't in the phone booth. Oscar, quite wily, stayed with Liam Wilson, circling him instead of backing up, circling him, doubling and tripling up on the jab, staying within striking distance while doing so, and keeping Liam's guns holstered because he's jabbing as Liam Wilson marches forward, tucked behind that high guard, trying not to get hit by those jabs. It kept Oscar within striking distance, kept him in the fight, kept him busy.
Kept Liam Wilson's guns holstered, as stated. As soon as Liam Wilson got away from his jab, that's as soon as Oscar Valdez grew into the fight.
7th round. You see Liam Wilson marching forward, trying to get off punches on Oscar, and he ends up taking a counter left hook that spelt the end. It clearly rattled his cage. It clearly hurt him, at which point Oscar moves in, unleashes a salvo of punches, just waves upon waves of punches.
Liam's not really fighting back.
One or two more exchanges into it. The ref decides he's seen enough, and he's got to save Liam. He's got to save Liam Wilson from himself, who never got knocked down, never lost his footing, but it was clear he was out on his feet and out of the fight.
What's this mean?
Well, Oscar Valdez didn't become WBO champion last night. He didn't become full WBO champion, but he does have WBO interim status, which could lead him to become champion, to be elevated to that position if Emmanuel Navarrete, the man who beat him, doesn't come back down. And I said it before, I don't think he's going to. I think if he beats Denis Berinchyk at 135, he'll stay WBO champion up there, vacate the title at 130, which will then go to Oscar.
And what is a jam-packed, talent-rich super featherweight division at 130, Lamont Roach holds the WBA. Shucky Foster, Oscar's top-ranked stablemate. He's got the WBC, the UK's own Joe Cordigna. He's got the IBF.
And Emmanuel, at least for the time being, he's got the WBO, but like I told you, if he wins his next fight, he's not coming back down to 130. He had his chance to unify this division. Clearly, he wants bigger fights, money fights, like a Lomachenko fight, if Loma takes care of George.
There's more money at 135.
The fights have more of a profile. Emmanuel could have tried to unify the super featherweight division, but he'd make more money unifying in the lightweight division. So that's what they're doing.
And that makes Oscar Valdez the money man at 130 pounds.
How so, you ask? Well, which one of the other belt holders, which one of the other champions at the weight has the following in Arizona that Oscar has in their hometown?
Yeah.
In their neck of the woods.
Which one?
It's not a knock on anybody. That's just the landscape right now. If Oscar becomes WBO champion, if he's elevated to full champion, he'll be the biggest draw at the weight for the time being, which will funnel all, if not most of the action to him.
I heard reigning IBF featherweight champion Luis Lopez say that he's willing to move up for an Oscar Valdez fight, accenting what I'm talking about.
Oscar is the money man at 130. Congratulations to him, and congratulations to Liam Wilson as well for once again giving a great account of himself and showing that he belongs on television. But he came up short against an inspired fighter in Oscar Valdez.
It was a great fight.
I thought y'all said he was the best last year, though. What happened?
Yeah, it's
Why we
because
switching up?
they need something. They lost him being the best, but they still got him being the money man.
But you rather pay for a dude that you know probably gonna lose to Tim? If we just being real, coming off a long layoff, going against a dude who's active at a higher weight class.
Yeah,
and
because
we've seen what Tim had been doing to dude.
Because they hoping that Earl could get it back. They hope. Listen, you don't think that they hope that it's true that Earl was weight drained or that Earl wasn't himself or that Earl will be better at 54?
He wasn't himself because he was in there against somebody else that brought him out of himself. Like, damn, man, hey, I can't do what I normally do. Yeah, no shit.
And that's why they want to see him back.
You want to see him back against the best in the 154? You don't want to see no tune-up. You don't want to see how well he reacts to the weight. You want to see him right in there with a lion and he a wounded shark.
But he no tune-up Earl.
Well, I certainly agree with the caller that Errol wasn't himself. He couldn't do all the things he normally does because of who he was in there with. You know, so many people wanted to jump to the conclusion that all of a sudden the car accident and he's weight drained and all of these outlying factors that didn't stop him from beating Danny Garcia. They didn't stop him from beating Yordanis Ugas in their unification match before that, you heard Nestor Gibbs say that Errol Spence is no tune-up Errol.
Then there should be no excuses.
Boxing insider Rick Glacier stated it's widely speculated around the boxing business that the winner of tonight's Fundora versus Tszyu fight will give up the WBO title so as to avoid Terrence Crawford and still defend the WBC title, and instead fight a totally shot Errol Spence Jr. if the Tszyu versus Fundora winner pulls this stunt. You can always voice your disdain by not buying the pay-per-view for Spence versus the winner of tonight's fight, as you have a vote in this. Use that vote to help stop Al Heyman and PBC's chicanery.
Yeah.
Chicanery is the only way to describe it.
Yeah.
It waters down the sport and affords a fighter who doesn't deserve a title shot.
What's chicanery?
It's the use of trickery to achieve an enhanced political or financial purpose.
Financial.
For the people at the PBC, they may still be holding out hope that they can salvage what remains of Errol's career because maybe they feel that he is still a more marketable fighter than Terrence Crawford, and if nothing else, he has been one of their flagship fighters, whereas Terrence wasn't ever really with them. He was only there to get Errol. Now that he beat him...
That doesn't make him bosom buddies with Al Heyman and his PBC.
I said it in my previous video. If anything, they may resent him for what he did to one of their flagship fighters.
Because it was never their intention to make that fight.
So that Errol could lose it in lopsided fashion, knockout fashion, and for that, he gets a title shot? That isn't sport.
So often dubious decisions like this are justified behind the phrase that boxing is a business, not a sport.
Which is not justification, because where the money comes from, the paying customers, me and you, we're not here for the business. We're here for the sport.
It's our money you're trying to get at.
What are you going to do? You're going to put the winner of tonight's fight in there with Errol Spence Jr., put it behind a paywall so that who can pay for it?
Us.
Me and you. It is true that boxing is a business, but you could say that about any sport. Every sport that is a sport is a business, but that doesn't stop it from being a sport.
Boxing is the only sport that tries to get away from that.
And it's no justification, because all it does is hurt the industry and water down the sport if it doesn't even have a pecking order, a structure to where a guy can get destroyed in his last fight, to being fast-tracked to a full title shot, a full-on title shot.
Not a trinket title, not an interim belt, a full world title.
And on pay-per-view, I don't know, maybe such a move would be more permissible if it were a fight they were giving away, a regular fight, and not a box office fight. But we all know that's not the case.
If they do this, it's going to be a pay-per-view.
It's a perversion of sport, makes a mockery of it. Coincidentally, it's no coincidence that boxing in the American market isn't what it used to be.
People feel it's more watered down.
We have to wait out the outcome. We have to see who's going to win tonight's fight, and then what are they going to do after that.
If they vacate the WBO.
To get out of fighting Terrence Crawford, the winner's mandatory challenger, well, ranked at number 1 is the United Kingdom's own Josh Kelly, so I suppose that if Josh Kelly's people, the people at Wasserman, if they want to offer Terrence something to fight him...
I don't think they're going to do that.
Ranked at number 2 is the PBC's own Erickson Lubricant.
Maybe the PBC tries to make a Crawford versus Lubin fight?
Maybe the cucumbers taste better pickled. We have to wait out the outcome of this weekend's fight to see what happens next.
But I gotta tell you, here and now, Errol don't deserve no title shot.
It's ridiculous that you could get your ass kicked up and down the ring like that, then fall face first into a title shot.
Is there no bar of standard anymore?